Good evening. My name is Lois Spence. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland Wetland Commission meeting for the town of Monroe. It is May 12th, 2021, and the time is 7:04. I'll take a roll call of members of the commission and staff present during tonight's remote meeting. Please answer here or present, starting with myself, Lois Spence, Vice Chair, Acting Chair. Jim Stewart, who is not here yet. Okay. Clark Gingras,
Here.
Ross Master Rocco.
Here.
Mine's an old one. BJ Hall,
Here.
Denise Halstead, our in the wetland agent.
Here.
John Szynski, office manager.
Here.
And Stroud, recording secretary.
Here.
Did I miss anybody? I have an old notice, so
No, you've got everyone.
okay. Before we start, I'll read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetland Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetlands and watercourses within the town of Monroe. For the normal course of meetings, we will hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a presentation to the commission, during which and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. Due to the remote meeting status, I'd like to ask applicants to keep presentations as concise as possible. The commission will then review town staff and other independent comments. The meeting will then be open for public comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or commission. After any or all comments pro, in, or opposition to, or of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. Again, due to the remote meeting status, please keep comments or questions direct, and a time limit of 3 minutes may be imposed. It is not necessary that the applicant respond, but it's generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered in as evidence or testimony during the response. Please keep all comments, pro and con, specific to inland wetland related matters. Other applications that do not involve a public hearing will follow a similar format, with the exception that there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Well, there are some notifications. There's one correction on under item E12 under other discussion. It says that we were to discuss 114 Elm Street. That's actually 110 Elm Street. I don't believe you have the minutes for April 28th yet, so those, the commission will have to vote to table those till the next meeting. I also see that Commissioner Stewart has joined the meeting at 7:08.
Thank you. Okay.
And we did receive notification today that a request to table the hearing for IWC 2021-04 5 Victoria Drive, as the applicant had a conflict with another meeting.
And also 224 Kinney Road is to be tabled too.
Okay.
Okay.
So, with that said, I
All
give
right.
you.
We have, that moves us up to number 3, which is the appointment of an interim in the wetlands agent.
Yes. So I don't know if Denise wants to make the announcement that.
I kind of did send an email
Okay.
to everybody, but on Monday I gave my 2-week notice, and my last day at the town of Monroe is on Friday of next week. Sorry, Jim. Sorry, BJ.
I know we will miss her a lot, and I'm a little bit panicked. So we'll just go on from there.
Yes.
I believe that you received a request as to, if you are comfortable with it, voting in Joe Chapman as an interim inland wetland agent while we find a replacement for Denise. Joe,
Can't replace these.
oh, that's true, we cannot.
Nobody can replace me, I know.
Joe does have his certification. He was a inland wetland inspector actually in Woodbury in his previous job before he started with Monroe. So he does have the knowledge and the background. So just wanted to let you know that for right now.
Okay,
So that's something that the commission would need to make a motion on and vote on.
okay. Do I hear a motion to appoint Joe Chapman as our interim wetlands agent?
Where's BJ?
Sounds good. Is he
I'll
willing
make the
to do-
motion.
I'm sorry, say that again, Ross?
Is Mr. Chapman willing to do this, or we just like, does he know this?
Yeah,
Yes,
really.
he is aware of it, yes.
Okay. All right, I make a motion.
Okay, so
Thank
Ross
you.
makes the motion.
second?
Second.
Thank you, Clark. All in favor? Say aye, or raise your hand or
We
something.
are missing BJ.
Yeah, BJ, where'd you go? BJ.
His camera's off. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you have a quorum with just this vote, but
Right. Okay, well, there were four of us
yes,
in favor. Any, yeah,
I can't.
any
Yeah,
noes, as Keith used to say. Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. Congratulations, I think, to Joe.
and I'm just going to say that BJ abstained because he was not here.
Right. Okay. So we go right on to, let me see, public hearing, 5 Victoria Drive was tabled to 5/26. NOV discussions, we have none. Remediation submissions, IWR 2020-02, 24 Guinea Road has been tabled. Next one is IWR 2021-02, 118 Elm Street, unapproved clearing beyond posted upland review area. Anything on this, Denise?
I reached out, I sent him a letter when he didn't show last time, and I reached out to him, and I do not see him on the line right now. So I don't know if we want to just move it to later if he comes on. If he doesn't come on, I guess that's up to Joe to handle it.
Right, okay. All right, let's do that. And we'll see if he comes on. And
Can I say that I drove by there today and it looked like he was unloading more wood from a truck?
I wouldn't be surprised. I told him that he needed to move his big thing of wood, and the boat was next to it, out of the upland review area to start with. There was still piles, lower down, and zoning's not doing anything about the zoning violation.
Ross, was he bringing wood in or taking it out?
It looked to me like he was taking it off his truck.
Yeah, because I swear that back shed, which is supposed to be a shed, I swear that it's being used for living. Because I walked behind it, and there's just too much, too much stuff. There's a table outside, there's coolers, if it's a shed, and why would you have so many coolers and all that stuff if it's not really being utilized?
Yeah.
There
Is
you
there
are.
electricity in there?
Huh?
Is there electricity into that shed? Power?
I didn't see any lines that would let me believe it. I mean, it's a log cabin, but
Yeah, okay.
hey, look at 560 Hammertown. That had no electricity, and that guy lived there.
For like 40 years.
So I don't know. I mean, I normally I talk to the guy at his workplace. That's the only number I have.
Okay, has that NOV been noted on the land records yet?
I will check into it. I don't know, but I will make sure that I take care of it tomorrow if it's not.
Because I'm thinking that should be the next step. If we can't get him to come to the table to talk to us, that we need to go to the next level.
Yep, I'll make sure that that happens.
Okay. Takes good discussion on that one. Right, next we have IWC 2021-06R 64 Cambridge, remediation to entail earthwork, drainage, and upland enhancement to restore previous watershed drainage patterns to eastern western system. Wetlands system, sorry. Kevin, you want to take it from here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, good evening, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Kevin Soley. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with Soley Engineering. Office is located at 501 Main Street, right here in Monroe. I'm not sure, Donna, if you could make me a presenter and I can share my screen and run through a presentation. Just 1 second while we get this up and running.
Kevin, I don't know if you're aware, and I hope the commission got their email. We did get notification of intervenor status on this. I don't know quite why it's remediation, but it was accepted and added. I did email it out to you, so you have it, and it is up on the town website, also under meeting materials for tonight's meeting. Sorry.
Yes, I'm aware. Thank you,
Okay.
Donna, and obviously for letting the commission know as well.
Okay.
So we're here tonight to talk about some proposed site restoration for 64 Cambridge Drive and 4 Independence Drive. As this commission is very aware, a previous application to address a notice of violation for this property was filed last year. That went through a lengthy proceedings, and the application was ultimately denied. In response to that denial, we have been working with this commission to develop a revised remediation program for the property. We had our first step for that remediation was recently approved by this commission for the rehydration of a portion of the wetlands on the property along the eastern side. And now, well, what we have before you is a formal application for remediation for the balance of the activity we're proposing to address that violation. I'm very excited to say that we believe the application materials in front of you represent some pretty extensive thought that's gone into this plan to be responsive to commission's concerns raised during the previous application and through informal discussions with the commission. So we're excited to be here to move this on to the next step so we can try to address this and get this property back into a more productive role. And we're excited to be here. So just to orient everyone, the site is located at 64 Cambridge Drive and 4 Independence Drive. It's part of the Pepper Street Business Park, which is along the northern end of town. Route 25 runs north-south on this location here, and the site's access off of the northern end of Pepper Street. Just a little bit of a closer aerial, you can see Pepper Street intersects with Main Street, Route 25 here. This site's access through Cambridge Drive in this location. And then for 64 Cambridge Drive in the northern part of the property is 4 Independence, which also has frontage on Independence Drive in this location here. So the site has been subject to many past approvals and previous applications. It was originally approved as part of the Pepper Street Business Park, Section 4. That Section 4 re-subdivision was modified recently. But the activity on the site was conducted through a site plan approval which allowed for the construction of 2 large industrial buildings. As the commission's well aware, the activities on the site, which were conducted under that approval, expanded beyond the scope of what was approved. This commission issued a violation. We came in and reviewed that violation and what the activities on the site that transpired. And then we're here tonight to propose a remediation activity to essentially fill in the hole in the area that's been over excavated from the previous approvals and trying to restore the watershed to some of the wetlands along the eastern side. I will say with me here this evening is Bill Kenny, our soil scientist, and also representatives from the applicant team and the property owner. We're hopeful we can keep this presentation succinct, and we're hopeful that this application can be processed in a timely fashion to the best extent practical. So our application has been modified considerably from the last time we were before you. Some of the issues raised in part of the denial was that the previous application was proposed for regulated activity, and it included the construction of a building. And the concerns were it really should be separated into a remediation application only and not include any other site development aspects. So this plan has been revised to do just that. We aren't proposing the construction of any buildings. We're only proposing to import material, do some grading on the property to essentially get the site flat, stabilized, so it could be used for future development purposes. Just to familiarize everyone, there's easterly wetland systems, which are located on this location here. These wetland systems actually drain from south to north toward the Great Pine Swamp. And then there's a little bit of a ridge in this location here. And then there's wetlands further east, which are actually partly on our property and partly on 36 Timothy Hill Road, and then a piece of property in this location owned by Aquarian Water Company. This actually drains from north to south, and this feeds the west branch of the Pequannock. On the west side of the property, there's a wetland system through here, which ultimately drains down through Pepper Street, and actually 2 locations here and here under Cambridge Drive, and this also contributes to the west branch of the Pequannock. As was discussed at the last hearing at length, the activities on the property that were conducted over the past several years, they didn't result in any direct wetland impacts. However, they did result in some indirect wetland impacts, in the contributing watershed to this easterly wetland system was reduced much beyond what was previously approved. And our analysis kind of showed that this easterly wetland system in vernal pool has essentially been dehydrated. So our application includes rehydration of that wetland and then the filling of the site to get it back into a condition that can be utilized for future development purposes. From starting at the southern end of the site, we're simply proposing to continue an access drive and a construction entrance. This is actually being done in accordance with previous approvals granted for the Section 4 re-subdivision, which established the cul-de-sac for Cambridge Drive at the southern end of the site. And then the construction of some sedimentation basins and stormwater detention basins, which have been sized and designed to accommodate for future potential activity on the property. From a grading standpoint, we have considerably modified our grading plan from what was previously before you and has been discussed at informal meetings. We are proposing to fill the southern portion of the site, roughly to this location here, to approximate elevation of 435 to 440, essentially creating a flat level pad, which would extend from this location when you first drive into the property all the way back to this limit here, which would considerably reduce the amount of fill needed to achieve the project's goals. The northern end of the site on 4 Independence Drive would be filled to a grade of approximately 466, 465, which would allow for a watershed to be recreated to feed into the easterly wetland systems, which is roughly equivalent to the watershed that was previously approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. In the previous denial letter, there was concern about, or there was discussion about an alternative that didn't restore the entirety of that watershed. We believe this application addresses that concern as we've reduced that watershed. And with that, those modifications to the grading plan, we've been able to considerably reduce the amount of fill needed to achieve these desired grades. Previous applications required the importing of almost 1 million yards of material. This plan would propose to import approximately 493,000 cubic yards of material to the site, which can be conducted in a much shorter time frame, which was another concern from the previous application. We believe these activities can be completed in 5 years. As I previously mentioned, we've already started to rehydrate these wetlands via another remediation application, which was approved by this commission via pumping from a groundwater well, roughly in this location, which comes across the site and feeds into the lower reach of this wetland system. Now, that piping installation should be completed by the end of this week. The applicant and the owner has been working on that, and that should be completed shortly. And then that, in concert with our proposed grading activities, we believe will provide sufficient restoration from a rehydration standpoint to this wetland system and address a lot of the other concerns that were discussed at previous applications. Our plan set in front of you includes a pretty robust package. From a process standpoint, we need to secure this approval from the Wetlands Commission for the remediation activities. And then subsequent to this, we'll need to receive an approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission for a fill permit. We have discussed the current status of the site with the Planning and Zoning Commission at their last meeting last Thursday. We've informed them that we're going to be before you with this. And then hopefully, if we can get this processed, we'll be before them for a fill permit application to allow for these improvements to be completed. As part of our package, we've included a grading and drainage plan. This shows our proposed grading activities. We've included the construction of detention basins throughout the site. There are 3 along the southern edge of the property. So again, this is Cambridge Drive as you drive north into the site, 1 on the right-hand side of the road, 1 on the left-hand side of the road, and then a 3rd in the southeast corner of the site. All of these basins have been designed in accordance with the 2004 Stormwater Quality Manual as provided by DEEP and have been sized to allow for to serve as sedimentation basins during construction and also to allow for stormwater detention and attenuation in future scenarios where the site may be hopefully developed. Continuing north into the site, we're essentially, as I mentioned, we're just kind of grading this out to create a somewhat level pad, but to make sure there's positive drainage all the way towards the front of the site. And then once you get to the northern edge of the property, as I mentioned, the portion of the site closest to Independence Drive will be filled to an elevation that'll allow access from Independence, and then have stormwater drain superficially to the east to provide some watershed restoration, and then a 3-to-1 slope down from this level pad down to the lower pad, as I mentioned previously. As part of our application, we included details for an impervious clay liner, and actually it can either be a clay liner or it can be a 6 mil poly or a plastic liner to ensure that any water that does rain on this area of fill will essentially infiltrate into the ground and then drain along that liner to this wetland edge, along the existing rock face along the eastern side, so that we wouldn't lose any of that water from a watershed standpoint. And this was discussed at length, and we feel that is a good way to address that. It'll essentially act as the same rock ledge elevation did in previous prior to any site disturbance. Our soil erosion sediment control plan has been prepared in accordance with the 2002 Soil Erosion Sediment Control Manual. This site is covered under a stormwater general permit for construction activities with the DEEP. It's also covered under a industrial permit for stormwater discharge from industrial activities. It's also covered under that under a permit with the DEP as well. Our office has been conducting soil erosion sediment control inspections in accordance with those permit requirements, and those records are available if the commission is interested. However, our plan does include a robust SEC measures to ensure that no sediment-laden water can leave the site or have any impact to any of the surrounding natural resources. As part of that plan, the import of this material will require for that material to be sorted in a way where it can be placed in engineered lifts, in structural lifts throughout the property. As part of our application, we included a material intake procedure, which is a detailed and robust analysis that shows how material would be brought to the site, how it would be reviewed by on-site personnel and inspected to ensure that that material meets the definition of clean fill as defined by the Connecticut Department of Energy Environmental Protection, to ensure that there's no noxious materials or anything like that brought to the site, and if it was brought to the site, it would be immediately removed by the person who brought it there. Our intake protocol includes both quality assurance and quality control, so it requires that every load of material to be brought to the site has to include a certification and of conformity that it meets the definition of clean fill, and then there's additional QA/QC testing completed by the owner and the applicant on random samples of material to ensure that that material complies with that certificate of conformity. That material will need to be sorted and processed so that the material can be placed in engineered lifts so that the future developed area can accommodate any proposed buildings and structures. So our SEC plan does include provisions on how that material would come in, where it would be stored in bins prior to placement in the deeper reaches of the site. One other item to point out is there is on the northern end of the site, there is an area that's been excavated below the water table. We have proposed that only native material be placed to elevation approximately 410, which is, we believe, the static water elevation for the site. And that's to ensure that only clean native material that's native to the site would be used for that deeper area where groundwater could potentially come back up to reach that static elevation. And then above that area, we would only be placing clean fill. There's a substantial amount of material on the property that'll be used as part of the filling operations. There are some stockpiles of quarry screenings, which were a result of the byproduct of the operations on the property over the past years. That will all be utilized on site as well. And then roughly 490,000 yards will have to be imported to complete the grading operations as shown on the proposed plans. We have we included some on our SEC plan. We have a detailed phase or a detailed plan which shows how the site's going to be developed. It also includes the details of the rehydration piping, which is shown. We included that information on this plan for the Commission's consideration, which was previously approved at other meetings. As you can see here, we've identified on the SEC plan where the material stockpiling would take place, how the existing on-site materials would be gathered and then placed. And we have a series of sedimentation basins which have been sized in accordance with the SEC manual to ensure there's adequate capacity for to collect stormwater runoff and ensure there's adequate room for sediment to settle out. The northern portion of the site, as I mentioned before, which has its deepest part of the hole, from a dewatering standpoint, we will be proposing for that water to be dewatered into the sedimentation basin in the southeast corner in this location here, so that it doesn't inundate the westerly wetland system or vernal pool, which I think there may have been evidence of in previous years when that water was dewatered into the municipal basin in the northwest corner of the site. So we'll be providing dewatering to this corner to ensure that we don't have any adverse impact to those wetlands or natural resources. Included in our package is a robust landscape plan, which includes extensive both wetland plantings in specific areas and also upland enhancement areas. Starting on the southern end of the site, we've included, for the Commission's information, some remediation and restoration plantings, which are approved as part of the Section 4 re-subdivision at the southern end of the site where Cambridge Drive cul-de-sac will be reestablished. As you drive north into the site, our access driveway in this location here, we have extensive wetland plantings and mitigation areas and upland enhancement areas along the eastern edge of the site. Included in our package is extensive wetland markers along the boundary of the property to ensure that it's very clear where the wetlands are, the natural resources are, to prevent or protect against any future disturbance in areas where we don't want that disturbed. We have seeding and restoration in the, seeding mixes in the detention basins and sedimentation basins proposed on either end of the driveway. As you go towards as you continue to drive north along the western side of the property, we have additional plantings and upland enhancement plantings along the eastern edge of the wetlands. And then there's in the municipal detention basin, which is located in the northwest corner of the property, additional plantings, both from a seeding and also from a plant standpoint are proposed surrounding that basin. Going back to and sorry to jump around, but in the southeast corner of the site, our sedimentation basin and stormwater basin has been designed to also provide for some additional wetland plants and upland enhancement areas. We've also identified a small area in the northeast corner where we're proposing to actually recreate some additional wetland soils or with additional wetland plantings in this corner here. And then as you continue further north along that easterly wetland edge, we've provided some considerable upland enhancement plantings, upgrading from the wetlands, and then some extensive tree cover to restore the previously cleared area north of the wetlands in Vernal Pool in this location here. And then those buffer plantings continue as you go from north to south along that wetland edge, and then additionally through this area, bringing it all the way back to the other corner. We have in our package sections through the property which show the existing grades and the proposed grades. This is actually more of a requirement for planning and zoning with their fill permit, but it is something that we had prepared. What I wanted to do for the commission's benefit is to show some models, some 3D models, which may be helpful in the commission kind of understanding what the proposed grading will result from a future condition standpoint. So this obviously shows our proposed grading activities. One other consideration that we've included in our application is a proposed lot line revision, which will result in moving the existing lot line between 64 Cambridge Drive and 4 Independence Drive from this location here to moving that line a little bit from south to north to bring that line across the property here so that it essentially bifurcates the upper pad and the lower pad, and then have that line continue south so that the entire limit of that easterly wetland system will be contained on 4 Independence Drive, so that the watershed that's being restored is entirely on 4 Independence Drive, and then the wetlands on this side are also on that property. So this will allow for essentially 2 properties, 4 Independence at that upper pad elevation with access off of Independence Drive, and then 64 Cambridge Drive developed with that to that lower pad elevation, so that they can kind of be developed independently, but that the restoration activities associated with this easterly wetland system are all fully contained on one property. We know that was a concern discussed during the previous hearings. And then I wanted to show some models. I think these might be a little bit hard to see, but imagine if you're up in the air roughly here, looking to the north towards Independence Drive. Up along the eastern side, you can see this would be that easterly wetland system. You can see the face of the rock excavation, and you can see how the grades drop down. Independence Drive would be roughly in this location here. You can see that face as it drops down from higher elevation down to the bottom of the excavation here. You can see some stockpiles of materials which are kind of which have been created over the years, and just how those grades work. And then from a proposed condition, we do have a model which shows how this will be cleaned up. and roughly we're going to be able to create a uniform grade running from south to north, all the way to that proposed change in pad elevation with the uniform slope up to that upper pad elevation. And then again, this will allow for surface water flow from west to east to fill into that easterly wetland system here. You can see the height of that easterly rock face has been reduced substantially from its current condition as we fill in this lower portion of the site up to that lower pad elevation. You can even see the depressions for the detention basins as we've proposed it along the southern end of the sites and the driveway coming right through the middle, and to really kind of create an area that can really clean up something that's been that's needed to be addressed. And again, we're here with the property owner with all intentions to address that. And I think we've been trying to be open and honest and work with the commission in earnest to get this property to be addressed. With that, I'd like to, I guess I'll pass it over to Bill Kenny just to provide, included in our application materials was an updated report from Bill's office. He's been out to the site a couple times, and I wanted to give him a chance to address the commission just to talk about his review of our proposed plans and his assessment on the wetlands and how this activity will prove to be a net benefit for the property. And then we're happy to answer any questions the commission may have. Bill?
Yes, good evening. Hi, my name is Bill Kenny. I'm the principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield. I am a professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, and landscape architect. We continue to help with this project and are happy to be here for this remediation, the proposed remediation work. And based on the work that's proposed, in summary, it's our conclusion, our professional opinion that this project will have a substantial benefit to the wetlands that are on site and wetlands that are downstream and off site, because of many of the things that Kevin has already described to you. But I'd like to just go through and hit some high points of how we've come to that conclusion. The first thing being the restoration of the hydrologic conditions of the wetlands, particularly wetland 2, which is on the east side of the site up in the northeast corner. Under current conditions, that wetland watershed is about 50% less than what it was naturally, and we'll be restoring that in 2 primary ways. One is through the shape of the land by restoring a portion of the watershed. So we'll get a more natural process where we collect water off rainwater and then direct it there through the shape of the land. And then the second way, and my understanding is that alone will get the watershed back to what was approved in 2006 under the P&Z approval. But to take it one step beyond that and get it to a level that'll be equivalent, substantially the same to what it was before any disturbance, the second component is the pumping of water to that wetland that you approved at a recent meeting. So with those 2 activities, we will be restoring the hydrologic conditions to that wetland. And we have been retained by the applicant to monitor that wetland on a quarterly basis, as was required per your recent approval. So that's huge right there as a net benefit from this project. Second thing is that there's substantial improvement to the buffers here to the wetlands that, as was shown on the landscape plans that Sully Engineering prepared, there's going to be along the west edge of the wetlands in the eastern portion of the property, and on the north edge of those wetlands, a significant amount of upland forest is going to be planted. Initially, it'll be meadow habitat with sapling trees, but over time that'll grow in and become a forest. And that's great buffering for those wetlands and the vernal pool that's in that area. And then in other areas of the site, in the southwestern corner and the southeastern corner, additional buffer plantings bordering wetlands to the west and to the south. So we're restoring the hydrologic conditions. We're restoring adjacent upland buffers. Next, we are restoring some wetland area. We're actually expanding the overall wetland area, not in a great way, but still expanding it. There's a portion in the northern portion of the site where there was a small area of wetland that was filled due to a previous activity related to right-of-way improvements on Independence Drive. And that fill and debris is going to be removed in that wetland area. The soils will be restored and the area will be replanted with native plants. And then at the southeast corner of the property, they're taking an area that is upland and creating new wetland areas. So restoring some wetlands in the northern portion of the property and creating new wetlands in the southeastern portion of the property. Next, there will be a substantial stabilization of the remainder of the property. So we're going to restore wetlands, restore buffers, and then stabilize other upland areas of the property. So eliminate a potential source of sediment deposition and turbid water discharge and things of that sort by stabilizing this site. And then lastly, by adding significant stormwater management features to manage both the quantity and quality of stormwater discharge from the property for into the in perpetuity. So with all those things said, with restoring the hydrologic conditions, restoring buffers, expanding wetlands, stabilizing the site, adding stormwater BMP measures, it's my professional opinion that the project will have a substantial benefit to the wetlands that are on site and those that are immediately off site, particularly those downstream. I'd be pleased to answer any questions that you might have.
First, let me
Thanks, Bill.
I believe that Keith Romano came to the meeting at 7:25. Am I correct on that, Keith?
Oh, yeah, around that time. It's around 7:20, 7:25.
7:22, actually.
7:20.
7:22? Okay.
Cool, I didn't even pay attention.
Keith,
I wrote
if
it
you
down.
want to take over, you're welcome to do so.
No, go ahead, Lois. You could keep going. But I do have a question. I'll start with a question, though.
Sure.
First of all, let me ask, how much of the presentation did I miss on this application?
Not very much, I don't believe. Kevin did an overview, his normal overview. And at what point did you come in?
It was Kevin was speaking. It seemed like it was early on. I know I wasn't there for the actual opening of it, but was there any, I don't know. I guess we'll go back and check the record afterwards or the tape.
Yeah,
If I missed
Yeah,
anything more.
I think Keith, I think when I saw your screen pop up, I had just kind of really started talking about some of the history to refresh the commission's memory of, although I know it's probably very clear in everyone's mind. And just on the length of the discussions and that how what we brought before you tonight, we think adequately addresses a lot of the concerns raised from the previous application. And then we kind of just started to run through it. I don't think you missed very much.
Okay, my question, Kevin, is if you can go back to the page that showed the shaded in area, like in the for dependent site that was going to be the restored watershed.
Mhm.
Right, that one. So in the what part of that gray area is going to be green and not part of any future development, and what part is potentially still part of where there could be other improvements later on if a development plan is presented? Follow what I mean?
So yes, so I think in the future, I think the goal would be the property owner's goal would be to address the past violations and perform this work, and then create an opportunity for these properties to become productive. So developed for industrial purposes in the future. What we've done is we've identified this to be in an area so that it's the entirety of the watershed which drains in this direction.
Yeah.
But likely from a future development pad standpoint, we've kind of looked at it as, this part of the site would likely be protected and maintained and preserved in the future. And then this could potentially accommodate a future development.
Okay, so
now-
that's like if you overlay, excuse me, I don't want to make this go longer than it has to. So if you had overlaid Bill Kenny's demonstrate plan there, that blue area would have been the overlay. So that blue area you just marked out is like the green buffer, right?
Correct.
And
That's
anything to
correct.
the left of that or to the west would be runoff that's, clean runoff that adds to the watershed.
Exactly. It could be any future development activities. All that stormwater would be collected, treated, and cleaned prior to discharge to make sure that the drainage patterns were matched.
Okay.
So that you can see that area here.
Yes.
Going back to the other plan, that's what would be planted and protected into the future.
Okay. So then the remainder of the gray area to the west on the previous plan, how is that what's your plan for treating the surface for now until a future development plan?
So for now, that would be seeded and stabilized.
Okay.
With an upland mix.
So actually everything would then in that case, right? Is any of this proposed to be left just dirt for the time being?
No, it's all proposed to be seeded and stabilized once these things are established. The hope is that while these activities are underway over the next several years, we're able to find potential uses that could come in with future development applications. But, in absence of that, it would all be seeded and stabilized.
So what's the phasing going to be of the erosion, like the permanent stabilization? Obviously you need a road to run through and you're probably going to start the shallow end and fill into the deep. I don't know. I'm asking what would we expect to see for after year one when is topsoil and seed going to start being proposed? Or I'm sorry, not proposed. Implemented on the site?
So we would want to start kind of at the northern end, the deepest parts, so that we would focus on this area first, and then clean up some of the other piles and such so that they could all be used as fill, and then import additional fill as needed. I would envision this access drive, these basins getting excavated, so they can be more in their permanent form, and then start here. And then once we get to these grades, continue to come down this way. So, this is probably the bottom of that hill is at elevation roughly 440. And then it grades from the coming forward. I think there's probably, it's probably, a 1 to 2 year period to get to that elevation where we're kind of stabilizing this part of the site. And then, once this is in this final grading form is when they'd look to topsoil and stabilize these areas. And then, ultimately, eventually there'll be once we're kind of past this 440 elevation and we're just focused on this side, then we'd be able to stabilize and restore more of this area into a more, seeded and stabilized condition.
Okay. All right, that's it for now for me. Thank you.
Let me see, we'll run through the commissioners one at a time who has questions. Ross, do you have any questions?
Two questions. I had talked the last time about possibly the amount of water that's going into the upper wetlands. Is it going to be a continuous for 1 or 2 years that the water is going to be going there? Is it only going to be like at natural times when water would be in that area? Like spring would be obviously vernal pools would be getting going. And the other question I had, go ahead.
Yeah, so the intent from a pumping standpoint is to keep this going, to get this as hydrated as possible until we start to see some of that new activity happen. And we want to kind of continue to do that and monitor that over several seasons to see how it's working. I think once the once that kind of rehydration has taken place, it can probably then be used on a more of an infrequent basis to more closely resemble storm events that take place. And then ultimately, once we hit our final grades, this will happen, this recontribution will happen, whenever it rains.
Okay. All right. So the other question I
I
had
could
was,
add just real quick that what's very helpful here is the wetland number 4, just to the east of it, that we'll be able to observe the water conditions in that wetland and use that as a guide with the restoration of the hydrologic conditions in wetland 2. So, for example, when's there surface water in wetland 4? What's the depth of that surface water? And then, use that as a good benchmark for the conditions that we are restoring in wetland 2.
And just to remind the commission, wetland 4's watershed is entirely from the east, which is why that serves as such a great bellwether for us, because that watershed wasn't impacted by any activities on 64 Cambridge or 4 Independence Drive.
Ross, you said you had a second question?
I did. The planting plan that's going to be in the impervious liner area. Are the trees like what is it? You said it's going to be a 3-foot depth of material on top of the impervious liner. So if you're going to have some large trees planted in that area, how are the roots going to deal with that?
The vast majority of your roots, when you go out in the forest and dig a hole, particularly the larger ones, they're within the top 2 or 3 feet of the soil surface, and they really spread primarily horizontally. You'll get some smaller roots that'll go deeper, but it's quite similar to conditions that existed before, where there was bedrock close to the surface, and so very similar situation. Growing.
Okay, thank you.
DJ, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Kevin, if you could go back to the previous slide there, the 2.20.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sorry, one second. Here we go.
That's the one. Okay. So up at there at the top, it is around that impervious liner that it appears the liner crosses the property boundary. Is that correct? That property boundary is running vertically through the impervious liner?
It crosses the current configuration of the property line. And let me pull up, because I think it's a perfect time to do that, and I had it before. This is our proposed lot line revision plan, which moves this property line to come in this configuration. So you can see very light, and I'm going to trace it in a different color. This is the existing property line, which I'm drawing now in green. The blue line represents our proposed property line. So what we've done is the entirety of this upper pad area will be entirely contained within 4 Independence Drive, so that liner will now be located entirely on 4 Independence. Circle the rest of the property for everyone.
So all of the restoration goes with 64 Cambridge.
Well, so the blue is 4 Independence. So
Oh, okay.
all of these wetlands and all the grading will all be established on 4 Independence. And then 64 Cambridge will essentially be the lower pad area.
But all the water for the restoration of 4 Independence comes from 64 Cambridge?
No, the surface water that's
Oh,
going
the
to be
pumping.
coming from that.
The well pumping I'm talking about.
yes, the well pumping does come from 64 Cambridge.
Okay, so there isn't,
Now,
even if you separate the properties, there's still a huge interdependence for the restoration between the two properties.
one thing that we could do to address that, we wanted to get the rehydration started immediately. So we wanted to use the existing well that was there. One of the things that we could incorporate into this application, if it would please the commission, is we could install another well up here on 4 Independence and pump from this well in the future. And I think the applicant would be happy to accept that as a change to the plan, so that we could simply just install another well up here and only hydrate, so it's all entirely captured from 4 Independence to eliminate that interdependency.
Okay, yeah, that's my concern, is that where you do have an interdependence, should one or the other of the properties be sold, it would further complicate compliance with the overall restoration. So I would personally want to see a more complete separation of the restoration efforts, assuming at some point that the property would change hands or be split. But putting a well on that area, that would help. But I think, I guess my key to this is limit the interdependence between the two properties for restoration. And any comments you might have on that would be good.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, and I think we could, we'll work with the applicant. I think that'd be a reasonable request to make, to install a well in this location in the future, so that we can kind of we can break that. I think that's a great suggestion.
And then in this future picture of the property split, the impervious liner is entirely on 4 Independence?
Yes,
correct.
It is.
Okay, good. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Jim, how about you?
Sorry, I'm using a different computer today. It's not doing well for me. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I got a question about your upper deck there you're making. So you're going to be filling different materials, maybe to fill within the vernal pool envelope, and this is above the liner, and then you fill outside the vernal pool envelope, but still it looks like, but still graded towards the vernal pool. Can you show me on where that vernal pool envelope is on the drawings?
I can. Let me go to our close-up in that area.
How we're defining that vernal pool envelope?
Sure. So the vernal pool envelope is essentially a 100-foot buffer from the limits of the vernal pool. And now these vernal pools were flagged back in 2014. So obviously the nature has changed, but we've used that same envelope. And that roughly follows this location here. Now, in previous applications, we had proposed, obviously, to fully restore it to the southern end, but since the change, we're obviously only proposing to do that filling, through this limit here. But that's roughly the 100-foot buffer from which represents the vernal pool envelope from this vernal pool.
Okay, so that's, I mean, I didn't see that notified anywhere that you were considering the vernal pool envelope at 100 feet. Then the other thing you've got is you also talked about a 6 mil liner as opposed to I guess it's a 6-inch thick clay.
Yeah, our initial application said it could be either or. I think during the last hearing, we received some feedback it would prefer not to be clay. We think either can be successfully implemented here. But it would either be, yeah, it would be that. And I think our detail at this point,
Doesn't mention that liner or the plastic.
on sheet 3.02, it does say a impervious liner, and in the notes, actually, I think in the notes it still allows for it to be either clay or the liner.
Yeah, I couldn't find
Actually,
that.
it looks like we can, on sheet 3.02, we're actually saying it's actually all the clay liner. My apologies.
Yeah. But I was just saying, I mean, I don't have a problem with the actual liner, but 6 mils is way too thin. That's more of a vapor barrier than anything that's going to withstand any construction. So if you're going to propose that, then you'd have to upgrade that, as far as my opinion, unless you find differently.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. So our current detail is a 6-inch clay liner, and we eliminated the poly.
Okay. So the liner is going all the way to anything that is grading towards the wetlands, correct?
Correct.
That's the hot spot on the property. Right.
Correct.
But you've got your clean fill on top, 6 feet of clean fill on top of that.
Correct.
Okay. I guess I'd love to see you put that on the profiles.
Okay.
So it's clear what you're proposing as far as the limit of the clean fill, the virgin fill, the thicknesses. Your drawing is confusing. I mean, not if you've looked at it for 15 minutes.
Sure, we can add that to our cross sections, and we obviously have the detail, but we can clarify some of those concerns for you.
Then the next question was, since this is going to be a future pad site, can you tell me how you would, and most of that water is going to be obviously going to be buildings and asphalt and curbing and drainage and septic systems and all this stuff on that pad site. Can you explain to me how you're going to treat the stormwater runoff that's heading to that vernal pool in the future, if this is permitted, in either 3 feet of natural fill or 6 feet of clean fill? I mean, to me, you're going to have to create more. You're going to have more depth to create a pond or something, and piping. I just don't understand at this point. And I don't necessarily expect you to answer me right now. It's just the thought.
Well, I think so. Ultimately, we're establishing the limits of this impervious liner, but in a future development application, the surface will be, a portion of the surface will be impervious. So that, whether it's roof or pavement or parking lot or anything like that, the water that the water that lands on those impervious surfaces will be collected and then run through a treatment train to provide water quality treatment, and then likely through a hydrodynamic separator or an above ground basin to ensure that we're meeting the requirements of the water quality manual. So, just in theory, if we have a development pad that looks like this with a building facing Independence Drive, we would collect all that, route that through a stormwater treatment train with deep sumps and things like that, so that all that area would be collected and treated. And that may be attenuated either through underground detention or an above ground basin. All this actually drains to the Great Pine Swamp and then runs to the north. So we don't actually have an attenuation requirement because the swamp itself does all that attenuation. But from a septic standpoint, the septic soils would actually be over over on this side where there's some, you know, where there's been some septic testing with the sanitarian. But all this area could be collected and
Whoever
treated.
that caller is, please mute yourself. Somebody's on the phone is just totally messing this up.
I think it's caller 7. I'm not sure if the moderator could mute them. So anyway, so I think, so all that would be, I mean, that'd be worked out in a future development application, but I certainly think it's more than reasonable to think that we could employ water quality measures to ensure that any future water that's discharged in this location can be adequately treated and in accordance with the requirements.
Okay, maybe what you could do for me is make a little exhibit that it doesn't have to be anything complicated on your profile. One of your profiles is appropriate, showing you know, a couple of boxes which would be your underground detention and the outlet pipe, so that I can see that you can actually you know, put 6-foot deep structures and pitch them appropriately and get it out. You know what I mean? And discharge it at a reasonable distance from the wetlands. And not
Understood. So you're
not pierce your,
yeah,
not be going through your liner.
understood. I think in the future though, I'm less concerned about the liner being maintained because the impervious surfaces will act as that liner.
You probably are correct, but you still have to be 6 feet down, and you still have to get down to that pond on that break where it drops.
And I think I understand what you're getting at too, is if we develop on a pad here, we need to make sure that there's sufficient depth for that water to get collected and then outletted at an elevation that'll still get there. And I think we can show you, and we can prepare an exhibit that can demonstrate that.
Yeah, and it's treated, and it's, because I don't want to have an argument in a couple of years or a couple months, a couple of years, when you've got a developer and we're saying, oh, you know, you can't make the site work. We have to dig down and relocate the liner and do all this.
Sure. Yep. Okay. We can provide that.
Okay, thank you. That's good, Lois, for me for now.
Okay, thank you. Clark, have you any questions?
No questions.
Okay, guess who's next?
You are.
I have as usual, I have a whole mess of questions. The new proposed activity and the new proposed lot lines that you brought to us this time are quite a bit different than the ones you showed us in the conceptual concept. When we brought to the informal discussion, and that the line that transects, that the east-west line has been brought toward Independence Drive significantly. I guess the first question where I'm going, the first question I have for Bill Kenny, and that is, Vernal Pool 2 is in the larger section of wetlands, not the one that's directly east of the liner on Independence. It's north of that. Am I correct? I mean, I'm south of that.
That's correct.
So there is no vernal pool that's being directly fed by this runoff.
No, there's a small area of breeding was found just where Kevin was, just on the north end where he was just starting to outline.
But that's never been identified as a vernal pool before.
I believe it was by Michael Klein.
It was flagged as a vernal pool.
But it was never in any of the previous applications or discussions, that's never been mentioned as a vernal pool. Vernal Pool 2 was always in the northern section. I'm sorry, I keep saying that. in the southern section, the larger of the two. And vernal pool 3 is the little isolated guy in the far east. And my concern is that there's not going to be any runoff going to the majority of that wetland, which is actually south of the area that you're proposing this drainage pattern. And so that, I just want to put that aside as a concern for now, and we'll probably revisit that at another time. Are you planning on this pumping being a permanent thing?
Yes,
It could be, if needed.
Because that was not part of the original concept, was to pump until we no longer needed to pump, because we were going to restore the watershed naturally. And so that has changed.
Yeah, in response to all the other comments, we reduced, our first application was to restore the entirety of the watershed, and that was denied. So this is,
the conceptual plan that you brought us last time.
it has always been this.
The conceptual plan you brought us last time had a significant amount of, because the lot line revision was quite a bit south from where it is on this plan, there was a lot more water that was being directed to the south, and it actually did encompass almost all of that larger section, which we've always referred to as Pool 2. And that is not happening now. So I was quite surprised at that and very disappointed, because that was one of the things that I really appreciated about the conceptual plan, was that it did seem to answer a lot of the questions and rehydrate most of the wetlands naturally through rainfall and not through pumping. So that was a big disappointment on my part.
Well, that application was denied.
No. This is the conceptual plan you brought us when we had our informal discussion.
The limits as shown here have been the same limits since we came back to the commission. We have not, all of our conceptual plans have put this in the same location.
No, Kevin. This one is dated 12/4/20, and it was a lot line reconfiguration, proposed site development and restoration. And I don't have any. The only thing I have as proof to this, I'll hold it up and show it to you, but it was significantly south of the one that you provided today. And it provided a lot more drainage into that vernal pool. So
yeah, the 12/4/20 was our previous application, which was denied. We submitted our response to wetlands comments on 12/11/20.
This one shows a lot line reconfiguration where they take all of the remediation and put it onto, excuse me, for independent.
Correct. And our denial was issued on January 26, 2021. That was the conceptual lot line revision plan as part of the previous application, which this commission denied. You issued your denial on January 26th.
You did not propose a lot line revision in the first application.
We did. We issued it, we submitted it on December 12th, 2020. We had a conceptual lot line revision plan, which established the entirety of the watershed to be on 4 independents. And this commission denied that application on January 26th.
Well, then I'm working from the wrong piece of paper, and I apologize. I guess there were a lot of parts of that I did like. and that was one of them. Um,
We did too.
Understood, understood. Oh, this plan, so I'm looking at Exhibit 1. It's just called EX1. The lot line, the elevations don't match with the elevations on. I did not have, I'll be honest, I got home late yesterday afternoon. I have not had a lot of time to spend on this application, which was in my mailbox when I got home yesterday. So I've only had a little amount of time to really look at it. So I need more time, obviously. But there seems to be a little bit of a discrepancy in elevations in one set of plans to another. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, please, once you have a chance to review, please let us know if the current application has any plans that are inconsistent.
Will do.
Perhaps.
Okay. At what point in the program would you be revising the lot lines?
We would
Will
we would propose that as part of our we're proposing it as part of this application. We propose it as part of our planning and zoning fill permit application, provided that the Planning and Zoning Commission approves our fill permit. We would then go and file that lot line revision on the land records prior to the commencement of all the activities.
Okay, and when are you planning, you're waiting for approval from us before you go to P&Z?
Yes, we're trying to avoid long protracted discussions in two commissions at the same time. We'd like to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission with something that's been endorsed by this commission.
Okay. Back to Jim's impervious liner. I've seen in, what if you use the clay liner, which I prefer because it can be penetrated by tree roots, where plastic we don't really know much about. And that's just an aside. Would it be 3 feet of fill on top of it or 6 feet?
It's 3 feet of fill on top of it within the limits of the envelope on the easternmost edge, and then it would go to 6 feet from there for the balance of the liner.
Thank you. Right. Oh, I wanted to ask, this is mostly related. How is the rehydration going right now with the pumping?
So that should be completed by the end of the week. They've been working on installing the lines, and that should be up and running by hopefully by the end of this week.
Okay, okay. That wasn't, you made it sound like you could do it like the next day. Which obviously is not a possible or practical. Okay, that's all I have, I think, at this moment. There was no mention of a conservation easement this time. Is that still on the table?
We can certainly consider it.
Mm. This is going back to also to what Jim was talking about. One of the things that concerns me about future development on 4 Independence is that so many of the yards of the parcels in Pepper Street in the business park have turned into construction yards. That would be the last thing we'd want to have on any property like this, which has highly sensitive areas that is being, the water is being funneled from. Would there be a way that it could be written into the land records that there are only certain type of businesses that could go in. I don't know if that's even possible. But if there are, how could we make sure that something as highly polluting as a yard full of trucks and mechanical doesn't destroy what we're trying to do here?
Well, I think the beauty of any other application is going to be required to come before this commission and planning and zoning. So from a use standpoint, the uses are governed by the planning and zoning regulations, and any activity on this site that would include any kind of future development has to come back before this commission. So I think this commission can make sure with any application that there's adequate buffers and protection measures implemented to ensure that, you know, any potential impact to the wetlands wouldn't take place. I don't think I would defer to land use council on whether there's any legality around trying to apply other land use restrictions on a piece of property in the land records. I think that's really just governed by planning and zoning. But I think this commission should take solace in the fact that anything else that happens here has to come before you and secure your approval.
Okay, would this application supersede the one that you have already in place for the southern section?
Well, we've, you mean the remediation approval that was just granted?
Mm-hmm.
All of the activity as part of that application is incorporated into this set. So I don't think it necessarily voids or overrules the previous approval. I'm not entirely sure. But I think that all of the scope is shown on these drawings, so it is captured. And I think actually based on some discussion tonight from Commissioner Hall, I think we can even probably show a future well location on 4 Independence to further separate any reliance between properties. And I think that can get implemented into what's being installed now associated with that those other efforts.
Okay, all right, I think that's it for now. I would like to hold off until next time so I get a better chance to review the papers. Okay, commissioners, are there any other commissioners with any other questions?
I've got a couple.
Okay, keep going.
In regards to, I was listening to Commissioner Stewart about the liner. I was listening to Kevin, and I was like, making sense both ways. But as far as what Commissioner Stewart had said, I understand that at 3 feet, there could be some kind of structure that needs to penetrate that. But at the same time, if you pave a parking lot over it, or there's a building roof line, it becomes impervious. But what happens if it's a design where they don't need as much parking lot and they're not that close, and then they have to run a discharge pipe out for some reason or whatever may happen? So I kind of get the feeling where Commissioner Stewart was coming from, that maybe 3 feet is not enough, but you could respond to that later on if you want to digest that a little bit. So I wanted to comment on that just for a second. Now, you said, Kevin, you're going to come back to us for a future development plan, but what if the development plan is 100 feet away from the wetlands?
So the beauty of the commission's regulations is, you know, we obviously have wetlands on both sides, and then these vernal pools, the buffers for those vernal pools extends beyond. It's a bigger buffer. So what I'm highlighting now in blue is the vernal pool buffer, the regulated area from these wetlands.
All right.
Yes.
So that's from the east side. That's the buffer from the east side.
Yes, and this is the buffer from the wetlands on the west side. That's 100-foot regulated area from the wetlands,
okay.
And then it bumps out when there's a vernal pool.
I gotcha. I learned something. All right. I probably should have known that, but I didn't. Lastly, about that other well you're proposing, how are you gonna get electricity to it?
Well, we probably end up doing something with solar powered, because essentially it's an irrigation operation.
Yeah.
And we've actually done some sourcing of some pumps that could be fed by solar powered. So we wouldn't have to run permanent power to it, and it could be served that way.
Okay, because I was also thinking if he were to put it there, wouldn't it be, but for long-term purposes, wouldn't it make more sense? And maybe I'm just thinking too much, but to have it more closer to Independence Drive for servicing and whatnot. Because how are you going to get to it later on if you had to do a service to it? Not that I don't think that this thing's going to have to run for forever, but if that's what you're proposing, I'm just thinking to myself, that's pretty damn far away if you have a split up property and they got to get to it. And also not to mention, it's basically an irrigation, like you said, basically an irrigation system. In the future, why wouldn't you maybe tie it into city water and just not worry about a pump?
We could certainly look at that. I think we'd have to, and that's something that could actually get incorporated into any future site development here.
Yeah.
On 4 Independence, that could actually be captured in. I think that's actually a great suggestion. We could work that into the irrigation system and then run those continuous lines down along the property line to further hydrate that southern end if it's needed. I think that the beauty of this is we have flexibility to consider that. But we're incorporating those, remediation methods in this application now, and we can always revisit and adjust as needed. But I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay, that's all.
Hey, Denise, do you have any comments?
No, I'm gonna stay out of this right now. Because any changes I won't be around for, so
Okay.
thank you. I mean, a lot of the questions I had, you asked, some of the other commissions asked, so.
Okie dokie. Okay, any further questions from the commission? Anything? Ross? No, okay. DJ's good, all right, looks like everybody's good, okay. So I would like to table this, not application, this submission to the next meeting, pending, is Scott going to weigh in on this, the engineer?
He has not had a chance to review this yet. There was a lot of information. And so I'm sure he'll have something by the next meeting, but he hasn't had a chance as of yet.
I certainly understand that. Okay, all right, so pending.
So we'll continue to the next meeting.
I would like to table this to the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Next, we have
several callers, Lois. I don't know if any of them might have been for the one that we skipped over.
oh, and you know what? I didn't do public participation.
Well, it wasn't a public hearing. It was a remediation submission.
No, I don't mean on the submission. I mean in general. We have
Yeah.
Oh, at the beginning of the meeting.
it wasn't on my cheat sheet, so I forgot all about it. Should I do it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keith, you want to take over? You do so much.
No, I'm fine. I had a long day of racing around a racetrack. I'm exhausted, so I'm just
That's
here
why
to
you're in the dark.
absorb.
We're
What?
completely in the
Is that why
dark.
you're in the dark?
Oh, the light, turn the lights on.
Oh.
There's just this big dark mark. Okay, is there any member of the public that would like to speak on wetlands related matters that preferably, I'm not sure if there's restrictions on that or not, Donna, but
I don't know that there's restrictions. I don't know.
we don't have any public hearings, so I guess we don't have to worry about anybody speaking about that. Okay, is there any member of the public that would like to speak on the wetlands related matter? Oh, Pauline. Caller 8, you have turned on. Would you like to speak? No,
I don't-
guess
I don't think so. I'm going to mute them.
Okay, all right, hearing none, we will move on to the next portion of the agenda, which is other bond release reduction report. IWC 2017-07, 36 Timothy Hill Road, bond release request.
All right, hold on. There we go. I believe in everyone's packet, there was the information. The bond release was requested for the second bridge at 36 Timothy. I did not go out. I do know, based on the information that's in the packet too, is that the bridge cannot be removed by the party at 36 because of where it's located. So I don't know how the commission wants to handle it. I know that in the information that was just presented for 64 Cambridge, they did make mention of that 1,200 square foot remediation with the bridge removal. So I don't know how the commission wants to handle this.
Well, we've been here before, haven't we?
Yes, we have. But you'll see the email that we received from the party that owns the property. And I guess the reply for the request to go and be able to remove it. So
My suggestion is we discussed this with our legal counsel, just to make it easy, because there's probably things we can and can't do here.
yeah,
So
I didn't want it to be ignored. So it
No,
was
let's
a
definitely not ignore it. Let's see what we can do. And let's maybe see if we can get Barbara to come to the next meeting.
Sounds like a good idea. All right, so we will table this to the next meeting and hope that we can have legal counsel with us.
Okay.
Time extensions, we have none. Discussions, we have 110 Elm Street, removal of invasive plants at pond.
So I don't know with the callers because we don't see names, but if Paul is on, please please put your phone off mute and you could start talking. I don't see anyone unmuting themselves,
I don't either.
but I did have correspondence with him and he said he would be on tonight. I provided him with the agenda and I told him to come on around 7:30. He may have gotten tired of waiting because it's now 8:30.
We're not overriding mutes on anybody, are we?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Donna,
Donna
no.
has control, but, oh, wait, all the callers are now on. Paul, are you one of them?
I'm trying to unmute.
Okay,
Oh.
caller 6 is Paul.
Okay, Paul, you're on.
Donna,
Hello.
hi, Paul. Donna, if you could put on the jump drive under 114, I think it's under the discussions. If you want to put it up on the screen. So if Paul needs it, or even the commission to take a look at it, so as Paul talks about what he'd like to do.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're going in and out a little bit, but
Okay, sorry about that.
there you go.
Yeah, so basically I'm just looking to cut the invasive species that are down by the pond area and some pricker bushes and mow it with a mower and try to keep it under control so it doesn't overtake the area in the wetland.
I know the commission had questions when I brought this up to you at the last meeting, and you had asked for him to come so that the questions could be directed to him instead of me acting as the middle person.
Yeah.
Yep, whatever you guys want to ask, let me know.
How much of the growth there do you feel is invasive? Or have you had any landscape professionals there to tell you what is invasive and what is not?
Well, no, it's all Japanese knotwood. It's growing like crazy bamboo. It's 6 feet tall, and it's all around the pond. And I've got some pricker bushes growing around there too. There's 1 or 2 little scrab like trees that are there. But other than that, it's all just invasive species growing. It's the Japanese knotwood. There's Japanese knotwood down there. I think 118's got the same problem with the Japanese knotwood. And probably 104 does too.
So your question is, can you just mow it down and leave it that way?
Yes, just continue to mow it and, keep it in control.
Well, the problem with mowing all the way down to the water's edge is that there's no buffer to protect it from any impurities that are coming down off the lawn. Any other commissioner have any comments on this?
I have a question for you, Paul. How do you plan on maintaining this? And what's the initial phase? How are you plan on doing the initial phase? By hand? Are you requesting
Yeah, right now it's 6 feet tall, so I'm gonna go there with a little hand clipper and cut them all down, and I've got a lawnmower and just keep it under check so it doesn't grow.
Okay, so you're talking about weekly mowing, monthly, twice a season?
Probably every 2 weeks.
So you want so that you would basically have to have like a grass there, no type of brushy growth at all.
Right. Well,
So
it's all
stumps
you
and
can.
so in order to do that, you'd have to physically remove the stump of these plants.
Well, I figure if I keep mowing them enough, they'll just stop growing eventually.
I guess that's a different kind of a mower. And the only reason I'm asking is that, it's obviously a lot easier for us, I think, to say yes if you're going to go in there by hand, clip stuff, drag it out versus rip it. But, you take your little lawnmower over there and you hit a stub in the ground, and, something goes wrong. Next thing you know, you're going to want to, rip it all out with a backhoe or something. So,
No, there's really no stumps down there, and it's just, I can see between where everything's growing, so it's easy just to walk around and mow it and maintain it and keep it down. It's really, really unsightly having this stuff grow everywhere.
yeah. Well, that's all my questions about how you're mechanically going to do it.
So it's my understanding that the invasives grow best where it's sunny. If there were some heavy shade or heavier shade, you would not be able to keep you would be able to keep a lot of that invasive growth under control if there were more shade there.
Well, there's. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. You can go ahead.
No, there's huge evergreen trees around, and it grows in between the evergreens. So, there's shade underneath the trees, but it's stuff just, it's nonstop.
Wait, that's this is not a conservation area, right, Denise?
No, it's kind of in the floodplain a little bit, but it's not a listed conservation easement.
Okay, so we could actually grant him permission to do something in this area.
Right, and like if we do, you do it as permitted use as of right, but if it's something he's gonna do every 2 weeks, it's not really a permitted use as of right.
What's
So,
the difference?
well, permitted use as of right typically is something that they do, they take care of it once and that's it. And, it's
Yeah.
not, it's not something that's covered for activities that go for several, repetitive activities for a year or 2 year, whatever.
Gotcha.
So,
Do you guys have a way to get rid of Japanese knotwood in one shot? 'Cause I don't want to spray stuff down by the water. That doesn't seem to make sense.
Right. I did read somewhere that if you cut Japanese knotweed 3 times over the course of the summer and do this for 2 or 3 seasons, that it should kill it. I don't know how much truth there is. It is just one of the things I heard at some course I took someplace. And the prickers, the barberries, I've actually known of people that have, if you clear all the undergrowth away, all of the leaves and that kind of stuff, that people have actually used propane torches, handheld propane torches, and actually burned the roots, and that really seriously hampers them. Obviously,
I'd like
careful,
Phragmites, yeah.
but
We
Lois,
burn Phragmites too, don't we?
Lois, what one DEP guy told me to do with invasives was cut them down and then mix a container of Roundup and paint the stump with the Roundup.
no, worth a try, I guess, as long as you're just real careful with the Roundup. I hate that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Roundup in general, but you know, whatever you guys want me to do, I would just like to control it. And see the beauty of the property I have over there. I have a nice property, and it's, you know, in another couple of weeks it'll be 8 feet tall, and you won't be able to see anything over there.
I hear you. What were you saying, Keith?
I was gonna say the complication here is what Denise described. It's like to allow someone to do a weekly maintenance is different. Now, I guess we could authorize, like what you were saying, Lois, that if there's a proposed treatment schedule to try to knock it out, we could approve that, right? Because that's an actual process that has a beginning and an end. Correct?
I would agree with that, Keith. But
If
that's
he proposes a treatment program, and then he can always just go into town hall and just go to the whoever is going to replace Denise in the future and say, you know, I got to go in there on my mower this month because the grass now or whatever, and then get maybe, you know, one time, you know, agent approval for that, or is that?
I was gonna say maybe an agent approval, because an agent approval is good for 5 years. So that would cover him to able to do it for several seasons or several years while he tries to eradicate it. That might be the better way.
Yeah. But I think a treatment program, you know, spelled out a little bit would be our best bet, because then that's kind of got like a start and a finish. Like you said, he's got 5 years to complete it. So that gives him anything that he describes in his methodology, he has the ability to use and implement anytime within those 5 years, whether it's mowing, whether it's physically cutting with a saw or treating it with a Roundup on the stump. He's got the full palette of options for 5 years, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Ultimately, I would like to see, if once you get the invasives done, I would like to see a low-lying buffer. Even if it's only 5 feet worth of buffer along the bank, because anything that acts as a buffer will protect the water in the pond. And whereas if you just mow down the grass or whatever all the way down to the edge of the pond, there's no protection for it whatsoever. Grass is really a deterrent to cleaning anything up. So that's what I would like to see ultimately. But as Keith and Denise were speaking, perhaps you should come in for an agent approval, and they can give you with some kind of a treatment plan so that they know what it is that you have in mind. I think any of the above, any of the aforementioned would be okay. The one that Jim was speaking, where you cut it several times and treat it with just the stump, you know, the little paintbrush and the stump, and you paint the top of the stump, and when it comes back, you keep doing it. And just be very judicious with the stuff, whatever it is that you use. I've had good success with high potency vinegar, and that's nowhere near as polluting. So I don't know how. I've never tried to treat Japanese knotweed though. So
What was it you used, Lois? What in vinegar?
high potency vinegar. It's like
High
30
potency vinegar. Okay, thank you.
5%. It's 30%, and that's
Okay.
and salt. You mix vinegar and salt, and that's supposed to be extremely potent. But I don't know how well it works on those invasives. So
Yeah.
The Japanese knotwood is pretty persistent in growing. You know, I think if you put some, would you guys allow me to put grass down along the water area? You know, if I cut the Japanese knotwood, plant grass, I think maybe the grass will overtake the Japanese knotwood, and the Japanese knotwood won't be able to grow anymore.
Mm, that doesn't sound terribly likely. Ross, what do you think? You're my landscape guy.
I have 2 goats and they eat everything.
You're right. I see that in our town too. Poison ivy, everything.
Everything. Yeah.
You should hire them out, Ross.
You want to bring them over to my place for a little while? I'll take some goats.
We put
I've
up a
seen it
temporary
done at
fence.
my neighbors' places, and the goats decimated the area, and it's been 3-4 years, and nothing came back. It
Yeah,
was great.
everything. And they poop natural. It's all organic. It's great all around. That's my only option.
Yeah, I would say the conservation mix that they have at like Planter's Choice, maybe could use that.
Yeah, it's like wildflower and grass and
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't get mown. That gets left. Once you get
Right.
the invasives under control. So
Right.
that sounds good. Okay, so Denise, are you comfortable with him coming in and working out a plan with you?
Yeah, he just needs to do it sooner than later.
Since Denise understands what's going on and her time with us is limited, you need to come in as ASAP and she'll help you out.
Okay, that's what I'll do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Okay, next we have IWC 2019-05, 5 Bridge Road plantings per approved plan.
Okay, that's, I'm handling this for the property owner. So I'm sure everybody remembers the whole thing with Bridge Road. It was gonna be a 2-lot subdivision, and then, I guess they ended up not doing the 2-lot and went to a 1-lot. The current owner bought the lot from Kimball, already had the foundation in. And so right now the house is built, and he's been trying to work on getting his CO. I went out and met with the builder, the current builder, because in order to get the CO, they have plantings to put in. And they called me because where the split rail fence was proposed is actually kind of in the woods. Now, what's interesting with this property is he doesn't plan on putting lawn up to the split rail fence. Most people want to put lawn and keep going. He likes the natural look. And you can see where the silt fence is. That perhaps may be the edge of lawn, or it's going to be a little further in front of it. You'll see a lot of mature trees. I am not sure how we can get the plants that are proposed mixed in that area, and I'm at a loss for exactly what to say to him on how to proceed. Because if we moved, originally I said, well, let's move the plants further upland of the split rail fence. But in one area, that would put the plants on the reserve for the septic system. I don't want to be touching or putting plants in where the reserve would be. So, you know, there was in your packet, there was I think it was 36 plants along the back fence. And then in that last picture, kind of the photo that's up on the screen now that Donna has, that area is all graveled. He did not plan on going lawn even to where that silt fence is. He still has to grade it and put some topsoil on. There was plants that were going to be over in that gravel area. That gravel area is a spillover of the gravel driveway from the neighbor. So he planned on just letting that go to nature. So I went back through the minutes, and they didn't have plants on originally necessarily. And I guess it was asked, hey, could you put some plants to kind of help with a little bit underbrush? And this was thrown in as a buffer. So, you know, I'm at a loss what to do with this, because those trees are very mature. He's not cutting those trees down. I don't know how we could get 36 plants in this area. And it's part of the approval.
Let me make a comment. I realized that we had 2 packets for this meeting, and one of them is still in my truck. So I don't have, is the plant list easily available to look at?
It
Or
was
read
on
off
the
to me?
drawing. For this one, it
What?
was right on the drawing. Hold on.
But that was in the first packet we got, right?
The plants that are called out for this is, thank you, Donna. It's 12 each of inkberry, witch hazel, and gray twig dogwoods.
Okay, Denise, I would say, I would recommend, there's no issue planting those over the reserve septic system. Because if they end up ever having to use it, they'll just take them out. They'll just remove what's in their way.
But they weren't necessarily going to do lawn all the way up there.
They don't have to do lawn. You're saying the reserve, they don't want to plant lawn on it, but you were saying, you said your concern was to have them relocated above the reserve septic system.
So where the trees are now, this drawing had those plants against the split rail fence. They're going to have
Yeah.
to be put out like, 10 feet away from the split rail fence or more
Yeah,
and navigate in between all those mature trees.
but I thought you said you were concerned about having them relocated above the reserve septic.
Well, yeah, because it's going to push, if you look at this drawing,
Show me with the mouse or something.
okay, can you see my mouse? I don't know if I
Yes.
have, no,
Yes.
you can, okay. So here's the reserve system. There's all mature trees here. The plants will probably
That's the
go
reserve system.
way out
What?
here.
That's the reserve system?
Yeah.
You're
this is the
over on
reserve right here.
To me, your mouse is over right underneath convert. It's not on the actual drawing. What I'm
Okay,
seeing.
then you're not seeing my mouse.
Whose mouse is it? It's not mine.
It might be Donna's. I don't know. Nope, now I must have it. Okay.
Okay, right there.
Where's the
You have a
reserve
hand. You
I
have
have
a
a
hand. Before it was an arrow.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, do it again.
So here's the reserve system.
Yeah,
Trees are all the way out in here, out
Yeah.
in this area, mature trees. So if he puts planting, it's gonna be like way up here.
and he doesn't want that. He wants,
I mean, he's wants to naturalize it, but according to the plan, this is what the approved plan is. I don't know how
understand.
we could put 36 trees all along here based on the photos that we showed earlier with all those mature trees.
But you're saying if to keep them on the plant, on the site, to actually have them installed somewhere so that it's a change of location, so to speak, but still meeting the requirements to have these plants on site.
This was, yeah,
Putting-
right. This was
Putting
something
them
that was
over the
offered.
reserve system is not really a problem. If that works, if that gets this, it clears this from us, gets his CO,
Okay.
that's it. I wouldn't say because it's a reserve system, you can't put this shrubbery in here, because sometimes reserve systems are in the woods. They do a couple, test holes, the soil's good. The reserve system has to go there.
Want to deliberately put stuff over the reserve system,
I don't think it's an
and
issue.
if the lawn is going to be all the way out, all the way here, it just, to have that fence all the way back here, and the intent at the time was to have these plants act as a buffer against a split rail, and now we're like putting plants all the way up here. But that's fine. That's why I wanted to ask, because
How
I
much
don't,
natural woods is there between the proposed lawn and the split rail fence that they're putting in, or that's in?
I don't know, in the pictures, there's mature trees. It probably comes up about 5 feet, and it's all wooded all the way down. And
But
it's all wooded here as well.
But to the property, to the bill construction, how many feet is the fence in the woods?
The fence is probably in the woods, good 15 feet or so.
Well, I don't see the point of putting any plants in, because to me those plants were meant to create a buffer, a naturalize a buffer along the fence. And if he's got a already existing buffer, I agree. Why would you want to plant those stuff underneath the trees?
I mean, we could go back to the photos, but that's why I'm kind of asking, because it's so thick in here with big trees, and I just don't see how they're going to even really survive. Otherwise, we'd push them way, way out, but that wasn't the intent.
That
or
was
the
the
point
limit
of
of
why you were
clearing,
having a
correct?
buffer.
That fence was the limit of clearing, correct?
Yes.
So I would say in lieu of the plants, he didn't clear it trees, so therefore I have no problem saying he doesn't need to put them in. I mean, that's where we would have preferred that. If someone said, hey, I'm not gonna clear these trees, but I don't want to put the plants in, we'd say, great, do it.
I agree to that, but does that complicate what was approved? Like for him to get a CO, can we make a change to that approval?
We could put a letter in the file, but that's why I even went as far back, and I don't know, Staff Bjorklund had done the plans, so I called them to see if they could recollect, and the plants were added later on. Kimball offered them per a comment the commission had, because he says, oh, we'll be clearing up, and that's when the whole thing came up with putting the plants in. I mean, I even have the minutes printed out. Of course, they're not here.
Do you have any idea how many trees we think were saved are between the fence and the construction area?
There were a lot of trees in that area. And some of them were, probably 24, 36-inch diameter. And then some of the others were probably, 6, 8, 10-inch calipers around it as well.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Stewart on that. On they don't have to do them. Just I thought if it was something he just wants to do to clear the CO as quickly as possible. I mean, at that point, if it's easier and if it's just easier for him to put these little shrubs in, just let him put them wherever.
That's my next thing is like, so if, do we want to say you still have to put them in, but they don't have to go in that area? I still want to put some sort of note to the file because this was the approved plan, and I don't see how this approved plan can be performed based on the field conditions.
Yeah. So with going with Commissioner Stewart said, I would say if there's a way to modify the approval so that, and it's all legit legally and everything, whatever the rules may be, then great. That's better. If not, allow him to put them, modify the plan and have him put them anywhere else he wants on the property, as long as the number's there. And then he meets the requirements of the original approval. It's like two ways you can go with that.
Okay. Yeah, because it's
That's my
like,
opinion.
he's got a couple other things that he's working with other departments on a CO, and this is one issue that I'm trying to help him get resolved.
So Denise, are you going to write a letter or something to that effect, or?
Yes, whether it's a letter to the property owner or it goes into the file. I mean, I will definitely put something so we know, and I will let the contractor know, because I know they've been trying, they want to get their, they want to finish the grading and kind of continue on. They agreed to hold off until I talk to the commission tonight.
Okay.
With a little bit more of an answer, but I will definitely put something, a letter together, whether it's just to the file or to the property owner as well, so that there's no.
Yeah, we should probably
going further.
If the commission is okay with that.
Say that again, please, Donna.
That I would prefer that a letter went to the owner or the applicant, so that that as long as the commission is all right with that.
Right. I agree with the other commissioners. I think since the LOD was not extended as far as they said it was going to be, and all those mature trees are left, the proposed trees are all very pretty trees. I think that the shrubs, I think the homeowner will like having them around. So wherever he would like to put them to enhance his landscape, because they're all very good for the environment. So I think that sounds like a great idea. He can put them wherever he wants to.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Does everybody agree with that on the commission? Okay. Thank
thumbs
you.
up. Okay.
Doing good. Okay.
Do we want to just make sure that one of the other callers is not the one for 118 Elm Street?
Sure.
I'll unmute everyone and.
Are any of the callers that are online right now for 118 Elm Street? If so, please start speaking. Nobody's speaking.
Okay, and then there's the Microsoft account and an H. Either of them, the person we're looking for.
They could unmute themselves theoretically.
Yeah.
And also identify themselves just so we know who they are and see if they're going to apply to anything else going on.
They're muted themselves, so I'm not.
Okay, so I guess that you
Okay.
can use the other
So
two
then I
then.
will take care of it the other way. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Want to
All
give
right.
them a last opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for remembering. Okay, deliberation on completed hearings, there are none. Agent approvals, IAA 2021-16, 90 Longview Drive. I'll let you take over for that.
Me?
This
Okay.
whole section, yeah.
90 Longview Drive, it's an installation of an in-ground pool. Item 15, permitted uses as of right, IPU 2018-01, Department of Public Works, road repair, replacement, and our general maintenance. IW regulation section 4.2C, expiration date March 28, 2023. IPU 2021-07, 20 Sherrill Drive, the removal of 4 diseased trees.
Okay.
That's it for now.
The enforcement deliberation, deliberations on completed remediation submissions, there are none. Administrative review enforcement issues, there are none. Status update, IWC 2019-12-R, 4 Main Street remediation work. Keith, are you recusing?
Yes. Oh,
All right.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody's online from that. So I gave you a packet. Let me give the whole background on this whole thing. Keith was the contractor for the remediation on this 4 Main Street. One of the people for the property owner, they claimed that they could not get the trees that were approved, the 6 to 8 foot trees, and due to COVID, and all this was going back and forth. So an agreement was made that 3 to 4 foot trees could replace it. So they went ahead, they did the remediation. You have pictures of the remediation. You have the map that I asked them for, because typically before I would go out to do an inspection of all the plantings, they're supposed to mark up, almost like an as-built. They're supposed to take the original map, mark it up, and let us know, perfect, let us know what's what. So this is the remediation, and the plants are supposed to be 18 to 24 inches in height, and the trees are supposed to be 3 to 4 feet in height. I had a hard time coming up with the numbers. They said that they did double the numbers. I have not, I'm coming to you because they're looking to me to approve it, and I think the commission really needs to look at this and kind of figure out how they want to proceed and what they want to do. So you could kind of see where a lot of these plants are, and if you have your packet in front of you, you'll see the map of all the plantings. And there was one where I actually went in and took a very close, there we go. That picture there has a flag saying LT, which I believe was a reference for a tulip tree. That does not look 3 to 4 feet in my mind.
Come on, Denise, that's 4 feet tall.
Then I must be a big giant. So this is why
Maybe they meant 4 to 6 inches.
So they have been trying to have us accept it, and I said it's not my decision, it's up to the commission to make the approval. I also know, based on the plant list you have, there was some substitutions done that we didn't go through the process of substitutions, but some seem to have been made. I have yet to be able to completely figure out the numbers. The bottom chart of that packet was the one that closely resembled what was on the plant list on the maps. But there's 2 other charts with other numbers. I don't know where those came from. I don't know if it's just because it was sourced by 3 different landscape places or not, because you'll see how it says proposed schedule, there's a path, and then there says remediation A. I'm not really sure what the top ones are. The bottom one was the one that closest resembled what was on the approved plan. So they're saying that they have 200 some odd plants versus the 128 that we required. I basically told them I think that they should ask the commission to take a look themselves in the field to see their thoughts on this, but the letter just came saying that they felt they were complete and they're looking to have it approved and accepted.
So a question, Denise?
Yeah.
Lois and I happen to be out there today
Okay.
looking at the other side, and it appears there's something sprayed over the topsoil. Is there a seeding of the soil around those plants?
That was a seeding that they put on. I don't know. I believe it must be the conservation mix.
Yeah. Do you know how recently that was done?
That was done at the time that I was told that the plantings were done. So that's probably within the past couple weeks.
Okay.
Let's see, the pictures are April 26th. So that was done April 26th, roughly.
Okay. Yeah, I think from what we saw visually today, the plantings were barely noticeable in the soil.
That was my problem. That's why I couldn't tell what species was which, and I couldn't really visually say, yes, I could count 129 plants or more. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm kind of having my dilemma, I guess we'll say.
Understandable.
It doesn't look like any of the conservation mix has grown. There was absolutely no sign of life within that gray
Really?
matter. Nothing. So I don't know how long it should take to grow, but there was an occasional weed popping up through the dirt that was probably naturally occurring. But the gray stuff is not growing.
So if it was done, yeah, that's just a little over 2 weeks now. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how long it takes either to germinate. I'm just looking at a calendar. If the 26th is when the photos were done, it was roughly done, about the time then. We're 2 weeks, just a little over 2 weeks.
It's very, very cold.
Yeah.
Temperatures, nighttime temperatures, crazy. They're low 40s.
Even my plants are having some trouble growing a little bit, but I just hope that the cold weather hasn't affected it, Ross. I don't know.
I don't think so. I'm sure it'll come up. It's just it's very early, very slow season. I think it'll be fine. It looks like there's some kind of an emulsifier in the mix, something like something that's going to make it stick to the ground. I really don't think it's going to be a problem. I do have a problem with the size of the plants. I mean, usually they come to us and they tell us, I can't get these, I can get
They
these.
told me that they couldn't find everything, and so I agreed to let them go 3 to 4 foot trees instead of 6 foot trees. But
They don't look like 3 to 4 foot trees.
Inches. They were teeny tiny.
So they're asking for approval at this point?
yeah, you should have it in your packet. It says, in accordance with application IWC 2019-12R, we've completed the required remediation as per IWC direction and solely engineering plans. We're requesting certification by the commission that the work was completed in an acceptable and satisfactory manner. Please note that due to IWC requirements to have the work completed mid-April at the beginning of the growing season, some plants and trees were less than optimal size. In lieu of exact specified size, which the plants will grow into over time, we have increased the quantity of planting by more than 50%. This was discussed and approved by IWC staff. A copy of the planting as-built plan and legend is attached. We trust that the commission's aware of the extensive amount of work that went into this remediation effort and the care in which it was completed. We're committed to protecting Monroe's wetlands and waterways and remain available to the commission for inspection tours or to answer any questions. But,
Well, maybe an inspection tour is in order.
and that's why I felt, but I don't have my email, but if I went further back, the discussion was 3 to 4 foot trees. I didn't go to you because I felt 3 to 4 foot trees was still fine for the timing.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's the original plan, and then there should be one marked up with red and orange, which is that's what was provided to me as the as-built.
I don't do that.
I don't,
No, you
If
don't
we're-
have something that
I
looks
would
kind of like this?
take the developer out there and I would walk the site and say, show me the trees, and they're not the right size, and see what they say. Maybe they count differently than you do.
Yeah, I would say certainly we couldn't approve it at this point. You know, maybe the trees need a little more time, but I'd say they're struggling to meet what they said they did.
There's a lot of other pictures in that packet too, that you included, Denise. Can you explain what they are?
Oh, well, I took a lot of photos of the area, so hold on. I gotta get to my
You think
packet.
that pathway was that wide that went between 5 Victoria and 4 Main?
They didn't, I know I was out there before any planting was done on that, and there wasn't, and no material was added to that area.
Okay.
So, you know, the water level may just be a little bit lower, so it looks little bit wider, but that's nothing changed there.
Yeah.
Some of the other photos I took were like areas of, you know, there was, debris in the soils. So some of the piles are showing that there was, you know, there's rock debris. There was still some stuff pulled out of foreign materials. You know, they were pulling out clumps of clay and wire from previously dumped plant material from the, you know, the activities prior. And there was one area where they had excavated a hole. I'm not really sure if that's part of the next phase, but since I was walking in the area, I just kind of was documenting the areas, and that's the hole that I saw, and that might be part of the next phase.
Okay, because they do have an active permit for construction. So,
Yeah, I don't know whether they've had the full,
oh, the pre-construction
if all the
meeting.
paperwork's in place with, you know, of, and yeah, I can't even talk tonight. If an actual pre-construction meeting was held, I know that there was a slight one that was kind of held, but I believe there's still some things that needed to be acquired before the work was supposed to commence.
Beyond the
But that's something with planning and zoning that they have to meet with. It's not us necessarily.
right, okay. So beyond the remediation, are they supposed to be doing excavations and work like holes and stuff?
I didn't think they were supposed to, but once again, I don't know what is going on with P&Z and what the agreement was. The day that I had my construction meeting, they actually were asked to come in prior and met with planning and zoning and went through stuff. But I know that there's still permits or some things that weren't in place yet, so I don't know whether they're supposed to be working on the next phase as of yet.
Okay. All right,
But once again, that's not really our thing, but since I was out there, I documented everything so that if anybody had a question later, we could say, oh no, that was there back at this time. That's
Okay.
not new, that's not, you know.
sounds good. The other commissioners that have not yet walked 5 Victoria, I would recommend that you walk it, and at the same time, this property connects. So you can see both in one fell swoop without even leaving the property of 5 Victoria, which we do have permission to walk. So I would highly recommend it. It's very eye-opening. to see what is, it looks so different on a plan view as it does in real life. So I heartily recommend. I will walk it with anybody that is interested in going. So we have another 2 weeks. So if we could walk it before then, that would be awesome. So are we going to hold this open then until we get a chance to walk it and look at it, or are we going to wait until? I'm not sure where we left that. And I do have the paper that you mentioned.
Okay.
So
I mean, I guess part of the note that, was to have a tour maybe by the commission members. So, if they've kind of offered that, I don't know if that's something you want to do and then kind of figure out from there.
okay. Can I have commissioners weigh in on this? Don't everybody speak at once.
But it sounds like we gotta see it.
Yeah, let's walk it.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, so let me ask a question before, do you want me to set a day up for a tour, or do you want me to just tell them that the commission members are going to do a tour? Do you want them to be there? How do you want this set up? Because I'm more than willing to try to set something up before I go.
Thank you. Well,
I'd be available Monday at 4:30.
it depends on everybody's availability when they get home from work.
Yeah.
Clark, what's your schedule look like?
I can do it.
Not gonna be Monday. I mean, I'll just go walk it on the weekend if you want me to, but
Okay, it would be great. I mean,
I don't mind somebody walking around looking at it.
did they say one way or the other that we had to have?
They did not say. I just figured if I could tell them that you're going. If they say, well, we wouldn't mind being with somebody, just give me a better clue.
Maybe can I help out at this point?
Sure.
Okay, you guys are welcome to come whenever I'm there, or anybody really. So it's not, and I'm working there actively now. If I could offer two things to clarify if nobody thinks that's an issue. I can just offer you two things that I did there. So I put a small little patch of wood chips around every plant to help them stand out, but a lot of it got covered or blown away by the hydro seeder. Was so powerful, so it kind of spread out a little bit. And I did count every plant that came off the truck, and there was the plants that were on the list that was given. Now, I did not, and the other thing I'll say, I did not buy the plants. I told the property owner to buy the plants and I will install them. So at no point did I have, and Denise will tell you this, I had nothing to do with the discussion about what size plant was going to be there.
He was
At
just the
all.
worker bee.
I was just a worker bee. I kept myself out of it for this particular purpose. I
Yep.
did not negotiate anything. And obviously, I met with Denise on a walkthrough before we planted. So I don't see that there's an issue with me explaining to you guys in the field the same way. Denise will tell you that I completely act like just the contractor and not as a member of this commission.
Mm-hmm.
When are you there?
I'm there pretty much all next week, the rest of this week. If you guys all have my number, you could just call me or text me and say, are you there and you want to come? I'll completely flexible. I think Monday, I might have to be off site Monday, but I'm not sure yet.
Okay, so we'll figure on just about any day but Monday, which is the day that Ross is available. Can you do another day, Ross?
Yeah, I could do another day.
Okay, does everybody have Keith's number? You should, I think it's
On the list.
That's right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
And even Saturday, if you guys want it Saturday, I'm around.
okay. Sounds good. All right, so everybody contact Keith and he'll give you and do you care if we walk around without you?
Yeah, that's fine too, but I could explain if you're gonna have questions and you want answers, I could, I can answer anything because
Okay. Well,
I'm basically hands-on on the whole entire project, just me and another guy.
Yep.
So it's not like I take off and people are doing stuff and I don't know what's going on. I'm doing it.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you for your offer.
Can I interject 1 second?
Sure.
I see that Mike Daniels for 118 Elm is listed as being online now.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Mr. Daniels.
Hello.
Just, I
Yeah.
see it, he's here. I figured let's just try to get it done. Sorry, guys. I know you want to all go, so do I.
Bouncing around here. Okay, Denise, set us up, please.
I mean, I don't mind waiting till next week or whenever is more convenient for everyone.
Let the commission, you decide what you want to do.
Do I have any druthers from anybody?
We'll be in the same position the next time. If nobody minds, let's just knock it out.
Put 118 Elm Street on the overhead. Everybody's in a car, so we're getting some
Can't
back.
do this with the background noise.
He muted himself.
Yeah, I think he muted himself. Maybe he's trying to pull off somewhere. So, huh?
Is he in a car, do you think?
It sounded like he was in a car.
Good point, yeah. He's better have a fan on his shoulder.
Yeah, so this is the one where, once again, this is a lot next door to the one that the person talked about, the invasive species. He prepared the plans. This is the one that had the grape and the blueberry in the front, and I guess BJ and I think it was BJ that said no, maybe it was Ross that said he had gone by. Okay, sorry, I knew one of you said it. Had happened to pass by, and it looked like maybe more wood was going instead of being removed. So, but I asked him to come back because you had questions of what he had submitted in his application.
Thank you for putting that up. I can't find one.
Yep, that's why I figured if Donna could put it up, that would help everybody.
Yeah,
So he's the lot where where Donna has the where the yellow is all the way to the left. That's the lot that one over. That's the lot that we're talking about.
And that's the one with the log cabin.
That's the log. That's the lot with the log cabin. Yes.
You got my disease.
Huh?
You've got my disease.
Holy crap.
Okay. And this is the one that had some landscaping plants like on the perimeter that were proposed.
Yes, this is the one that had pinks. We had said that some of the plants were nice along the side.
Mhm.
But and then he had all the plants in the front. I think that might be the next sheet that Donna had put up for us before. There we go. So that was the remediation plan, and you had some questions like, was it enough? You wanted to know a little bit more. You also wanted to know, when's the wood going to be moved out of the upland review and the boat and all that sort of thing. And I guess earlier you asked if there was electricity to the cabin, which I couldn't answer. So hopefully Mike is still on. And
Yep, I'm here.
okay, so you might want to do a little talking,
Yep.
or the commission has questions. So
Yeah. So I was able to move the wood pile forward about 15 feet, right in front of the post that's there.
okay.
So that's moved, and then as far as power, I know that there used to be power, but when Paul he built the foundation for the lot next door, it was all cut off. So there's no power going there anymore. I mean, it was never turned on, but originally there was power going from the other house on which lot? I guess that's lot 1. They used to have power going to that cabin years ago, but it's been shut off for I don't know how many. It's never been on since I've owned the property. So yeah, and yeah, I mean, I just I wanted to plant some fruit trees, like if I'm gonna plant something, but like I'm flexible with what whatever suggestions or whatever you guys, want me to do. And maybe we could walk it together if, you have ideas.
What is currently along the water's edge? Anything?
There's ferns, there's small trees like saplings growing from the other trees. And then there's large trees that are probably 30 feet, probably like 5 trees, and then there's just like smaller trees growing also. And then there's like skunk cabbage growing there, and yeah, like kind of like wild grass, and then like other grass is starting to come up too. Even going up the hill, there's grass growing up too. So basically, I mean, it was just years of leaves and stuff and debris, and I just kind of cleared all that out. And now, even without putting down seed, it's starting to grow, even in the front of where the cabin is too. So
It would be helpful to have those trees that are existing. You said, I think that you said there were some maples, whatever's existing on the lot, if that were plotted out, because it's really hard to see what you've got when you're just putting very lovely graphics, by the way.
yeah, I downloaded
plotting
some
them out
landscaping app.
on the thing, but to know what's already there would be very helpful.
Yeah,
It says grass,
yeah,
and that's quite misleading if there's really something else there.
yeah. It's true that I made the plan from home and just like, because it was like freezing at that time, and I didn't even want to pull in there because it was like 3 feet of snow. But now that I look at it, it's like, oh wait, there's already trees there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
even where I put them on the plan. So I think maybe I have to adjust that a little bit and move trees like more to like the center area,
Well,
like closer down towards the water.
that or add some more.
Yeah,
And because the whole concept was to kind of naturalize the whole back end toward the lake. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a pathway so that you can get to it. But,
yeah.
the open grass concept is not really what we're looking for,
Yeah.
especially
All right.
there.
All right.
I don't know how to proceed from here.
If you'd like, I can take that plan and just clear it, and then put the existing trees that are there now on the plan in like one color, and to identify them, and then add the other trees where I can plant them.
Okay, when you put them on the plan, try to make their size as real as possible, because sometimes people will represent a 1-inch caliber tree as having a 20-foot canopy, which it doesn't have.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and they just put up a picture of what used to be there. Okay. So are you there a lot, or
No, not really.
is there anybody living
Like,
there yet?
no, nobody lives there.
Okay,
Nope.
would you mind if the commission stopped by at their leisure to take a look?
Yeah, that's fine. No problem.
Okay. All right,
Yep.
so we'll add that to our list, and we'll look forward to your new plan and take a look in the meantime.
Yeah, and I'll move the little boat out of there tomorrow. I'll bring it over to my parents. And but yeah, I moved all that big pile of wood today.
Okay.
So yeah,
Now,
it
what
was
kind
good
of,
weather.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I moved the wood today. It was a good day for it. So yep.
What kind of activity is going on in the little shed?
I just have some tools stored there, like a weed whacker, and then some of my tools, just basically like gardening tools, that kind of stuff.
Can I ask what the coolers are all about?
Just while I go there and work and stuff, I had some water or a beer. That's all.
Okay, in the chimney?
Yep. That was existing That was existing. Yep.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I didn't put. It's actually pretty nice. It's all wood pent, like cedar walls in there. It's somebody nice wood floors. I mean, they did a nice job with it. Apparently, I heard that the son-in-law of the family of that house on lot 1 years ago, he built that house, and him and his wife lived there. I mean, the shed or cabin. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
That poor guy.
that's what I hear from the neighbors.
Oh, poor
But
her.
yeah, that's the
Okay.
stories that I'm hearing. Yeah.
Okay. All righty. So if you would
Yep.
please, as soon as you can, get that new
Mhm.
plan put together and submit
Yep.
it to Denise, preferably, because she knows what's going
Yep.
on. And her time with us is limited, so we don't have too much time and flexibility. But if you could get that new plan together, and if the commissioners could walk it in the meantime, then we all be a lot more educated.
Yeah. Sounds
Okay.
good to me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And commissioners have any comments? Or Denise?
I don't.
No comments.
Nobody else? Steve? Clark?
I'm good.
Okay. So please try to get to walk that before the next meeting. It's a quick stop. It's right off the road. It's, you just pop in at your convenience. Okay, thank you
Yep.
very much.
Yeah, and if you guys want me to meet you there, just give me a call. I'm working pretty close in Fairfield, and I live in Shelton, so I can just
Okay.
shoot over there anytime. All right.
We
You have my
can-
number, right?
I'll provide it to the commission. I'll send it out to
Yep.
them.
Okay.
All righty. Sounds
Thank you
good.
very much for calling in.
Yeah. Thank you so much for attending my case and all that. And yeah, I'll work on that new plan and in the next
Good.
couple of days.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thank
Bye
you.
now. Okay. Okay, next we have the minutes which have been tabled and Regulation Amendment Committee. I have to admit that I've been that girl and I didn't get the other definition for native plant. Been a little busy, so but
You
other,
know,
what's the next step? What do we do at this point? Once we get them all listed, Donna, you're all- Donna's like, oh God. Do you get them all compiled, send them to us, and then we, at what,
Yeah, that's essentially what's supposed to happen. How quickly did you want that done? No, I
That's
can,
number in line, right, Donna?
yeah. I can, I'm a little bit overwhelmed at the moment because, you know, we lost our planning and zoning admin also. So I've taken over all the commissions.
oh no.
wait a minute, Georgia left?
Yes, Georgia left 2 weeks ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Donna, how are you even keeping your eyes open?
Well, Denise is not left yet and she's helping immensely. So
Gosh,
I am
She wasn't
running as
happy on Monday.
fast as I can. So I'm hoping I will
Well,
need her help.
if you can forward your emails to, or your information to me, I can try to type them up if you'd like, because I already have them semi-typed up. So it's just a matter of getting them into a format that would be helpful, and I can try to put them together. I've got so
Yeah, I
much.
mean, there's not that many to insert really, so I think we'll be all right. I'll
We can't
let you.
insert them. We can't insert them yet. They have to
No,
be.
no, I know. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, because they've got to. There's a step. At some point, we have to vote on them. I think they have to be sent to DEP. They have to be sent to council, town
Yes. Yes.
council, SEL.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what happens at what point though, which one goes first.
I'll double check on that.
And then we have to have a public hearing on them also.
Yes.
So that's why I keep pushing, because I know these things take forever to get the wheels in motion all the way. Okay, so that gets tabled until next time. And Public Outreach Committee, there is nothing. Correspondence?
Nope.
Okay, Clark, you're on.
Make a motion, we close the meeting.
Second by DJ. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Although Jim Stewart, I have to say that your dog is really cute. I saw him curl up on your bed. He's like he's
Where
right in
is
the
he?
middle of
Where
all
is
the
it?
pillows.
Where is
Which
it?
one's the dog? Over there. Oh,
How cute is he?
That's cute. That's great.
I
look
love
at
it.
a stuffed animal, Jim.
Good night.
All right.
Good night,
Well,
everybody.
anyway, everybody
Right.
have a great night.